Welcome to Whispers of Pain, a space where the quiet hurts are finally heard. Here we give voice to invisible scars, tell true-to-life stories of control and survival, and honor the strength it takes to speak. If your silence has been heavy, you're not alone here. Take a breath, stay with us, and let every whisper find its way to a voice. Emma, he's 26. His name is Josh. Outside, it's a perfect suburban postcard. A neat lawn, a white fence, the neighbor's dog sprinting toward kids after the school bus. Inside, silence you don't get used to right away. The kind of silence that's heavier than a scream. Today, that silence came to court. Benches creak like old swings. The judge adjusts his glasses. Jurors avoid meeting the defendant's eyes, too many bright flickers in them. Defense counsel smiles easily. It's a misunderstanding. A couple spat. Emotions. As if emotions were a padlock you could hang on someone else's pain. The prosecutor rises. Your Honor, we're talking about a pattern, a system, about how love is turned into a leash. Emma sits with her hands on her knees. There's a barely visible scratch on the ring. Once, she said, yes, thinking home meant walls and keys, not rules and punishments. Mrs. Hale, the prosecutor says, tell the court when you first realized this wasn't just jealousy. Emma swallows. The only sound is paper rustling. It wasn't right away, she says. At first he said he loved me so much he couldn't share me with anyone. First I stopped going to yoga, a waste of time. Then I stopped seeing Jen. She's a bad influence. Then he changed the passwords on our laptop so we won't get hacked. Then he said my skirt was too short for the supermarket. And at night, when I woke up to messages from friends, he already had my phone in his hand. And he smiled. Said he was protecting. Me? Her words falter, but her voice holds. The prosecutor nods. And then? Then it was, we decided. Only we meant him. Then he'd throw a plate nearby, not at me, so there'd be no bruises. Then came the whisper in my ear when I was 10 minutes late. You know how fast you can lose everything? Then he said if I left, no one would believe me. Because he's a good guy from a good home. Because we're so clean. Because I don't have camera footage. Just me. And silence. Defense rises. Objection. Emotional claims, not facts. Judge. Overruled. Continue. Josh sits in the gallery, shirt perfectly pressed. He stares straight ahead, unblinking. Sometimes the corners of his mouth twitch. We were just arguing, like everyone. That's what he told friends. Emma's too sensitive. She needs a break from social media. You know those femme bloggers. The prosecutor spreads photos on the table. Not bruises, there aren't any. Screenshots of messages. A chart of card charges. Cut subscriptions. Canceled trips. Emails. Your password has been changed. Quiet evidence of a quiet war. Here's the pattern, the prosecutor says. Isolation, control, belittlement, gaslighting, threat. Each of these words, soundless. That's the emotion the defense speaks of. Emotions measured to the millimeter. Defense stands and attacks. Mrs. Hale, didn't you write your husband, "I'm so lucky to have you"? Didn't you post stories with the hashtag #BestHusband? Didn't you smile in every photo? Emma looked straight ahead for the first time that day. Do you know how hard it is to smile with your mouth sewn shut? I learned. The stitches were fear. Someone exhales in the back row. A woman in her 40s lowers her eyes. A man in a blazer clenches his fists. The prosecutor asks to play the hallway camera, the only one Josh didn't optimize. On screen, a door, evening. Emma comes in 3 minutes later than usual, Josh steps too close. He doesn't yell. His lips barely move. Only his hand blocks the light. The shadow covers her face completely. And the silence stretches for 37 seconds. No contact, defense says, and no threats, no violence. The judge leans forward. Sometimes the loudest thing said is what's whispered. The prosecutor calls a witness, neighbor Mr. Rogers, retired. He fidgets. I heard at night, maybe dishes, but there weren't any screams. And her smile always, that American kind. I thought they were fine. I was wrong. Defense smiles again. Model home. Neighbors confirm. All quiet. No marks. No case. Then the prosecutor opens the last item. A printed list of support calls. Password reset by a male voice. Request to disable a second line. Therapist appointment canceled on the day of the visit. And a handwritten note from the kitchen drawer, torn but reassembled. If you speak, I'll take the sky from you. The judge removes his glasses. The room doesn't breathe. Mrs. Hale? The prosecutor asks. Why did you come? Emma lifts her eyes. To get my silence back, but the kind that comes after a storm. Not the kind before it. The court recesses. The clock grows louder. For the first time, Josh blinks too often. His fingers drum on the table. He needs to control something. Anything. When they return, the judge looks at the jurors. Their faces are like the straight roads of the suburbs. But in their eyes, there's a turn. The court finds that psychological abuse, systematic control, and intimidation occurred. The court grants a protective order, mandates a program for anger and control management, and orders supervision. This is not emotion. This is a violation. Emma's throat finally releases the air. The room's silence changes weight. It no longer presses. It holds. When everyone leaves, she lingers for a minute, looks at the doorway where the shadow covered her face, and steps right into where the shadow was. Light falls on her cheeks, and suddenly you can clearly hear the neighbor's dog outside racing back to the kids, the bus pulling away from the stop. Life, it turns out, was always just beyond the door. Emma smiles, without stitches, and the voiceover, calm, steady, with a slight rasp, puts a period at the end. Not every scar is visible, but every scar deserves to be heard. If your silence is heavy, bring it, where it will be weighed. A pause, and the soft echo of an emptying courtroom. The end.